Okay, fifth graders, let's talk about how we can express numbers as fractions and decimals, moving on to the thousands place. Yesterday we talked about how in order to understand converting numbers back and forth from fractions to decimals, we need to remember our place values. So if we look at this place value chart, we see our decimal point here in the middle. We move to the right as we get smaller, and we have the tenths, hundredths, and thousands, which is what we're working on this week. Just a reminder, when we move to the left, we get bigger. We have the ones, the tens, the hundreds, and the thousands. So if I move my screen down just a little bit, we also remind ourselves that we use zeros as placeholders. That always matters. Just like if we had a zero here in the ones place, that would mean that we had 9,730. We would never just leave that blank and put our decimal point. This number says we have 9,738. It's very important to keep your numbers in the appropriate place value. The same goes to the right of the decimal point. If we don't have anything in the tenths place, we put a zero there as a placeholder. The number 9,738.068 is a very different number than 0.68. That would be 68 hundredths. This number is 68 thousandths. So just a reminder that our zeros matter. If we're thinking about what place value means, it represents different amounts. So when we have our ones place, here's 1 unit. Our tens place represents that we have 10 of those units, so we have 110. And then our hundreds place means that we have 100 of those single units. So here we have 100, 110, and 1, making 111. So I didn't represent the thousands because we don't have room, and I think you get it. When we're going the opposite direction, we talk about how we break up that single unit into smaller pieces. So we will not be using the bigger pieces in the thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones today. We're going to continue to get smaller all the way over to the thousands place. So for example, yesterday we talked about if we had 1 unit, if we thought it represented 1 unit as this square, and we split that square up into 10 columns of equal size and shaded in 3 of them, we would say that we had 3 out of 10 pieces, which becomes the fraction 3/10. This is very easy. We did it yesterday. This is review. I know you've got this. To make it a little bit harder, we can take our 1 unit and split it into 10 columns going up and down, as well as 10 rows going from left to right, making 100 pieces within our 1 unit. If we shade in 9 of those, we would have 9 out of 100 pieces, making the fraction 9/100ths. Also very easy. Now, to make this a little bit harder, let's talk about how we can make it represent the thousandths. If I had a shape that looked like this, so you can see that I have 10 columns going up and down, 10 rows going side to side, but now I actually have 10 of those stacked together. So I have 10 of what we started with yesterday, and we know 10 times 100 is 1,000. So this box represents 1,000 units, 1,000 little tiny pieces. So if I had 3 of those, that's what they're representing right here, 3 out of those 1,000 pieces would mean that I have 3 1,000ths represented by this fraction. If I only had 1 piece, it would be represented by 1 1,000th. So you can see how we just keep getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So today, if we look at, here's a place value chart. This is how we would write that fraction as a decimal. We have our decimal point here in between the ones and the tenths. We do not have any wholes, so we have a 0. We do not have any tenths because we're only taking 3 tiny pieces out of 1,000. So in order to have a tenth, we would have to have 1 entire row like we did above. We have 0 tenths. We do not have any hundredths, and we do not have any, we do not have any hundredths. However, we do have thousands. Those are the 1 tiny little piece. So we say that we have 3 out of 1,000 pieces. We have that fraction here. It's a little easier to say. This represents 3 out of 1,000, so we write our decimal as 0.003, or 0.003, as you can see here, 3 thousandths. Now, this again shows how important those zeros are. If we had written this as 0.3, we would be saying 3/10. If we had written 0.03, we would have 3 hundredths. So our zeros really matter. Now give me just a second. We're going to pull out some paper and do a few examples.